So like I said in my bio, my journey from grief is the soul catalyst, into this. Once I started kind of understanding, you know, some of my purpose here, why I'm here, like, grief through death of loved ones has been constant throughout my entire life. Like grief was just this little pattern that, I must have chosen, and now I understand, it's with the intention to help people ride through those waves. It was what I like to jokingly call non-consensual healing. Like, I had no choice to get broken open. I didn't, like, choose to, yeah, Imma step into this role. It was every feeling I had suppressed and laughed off and swept under the rug and eaten or drank or whatever. All of that emotion was just like, and so through my dad's death, we used humor. We used humor. Like, we all have a little bit darker, silly, twisted sense of humor, which, Tam, I know well that you share. And so that's how we kind of got through that. I had to get into um something to help my body move that grief. And so my first introduction was like meditation and Reiki and doing self-healing Reiki. I knew 100%, so many other people need to experience this. So definitely I've experienced that. Um, you know, I mentioned my dad's transition just breaking me open, right? And before that I was bound and I hadn't processed any of the grief I had ever really experienced. I had just kept packing it in, and using that grief like a little cushion, right, to try to ward off the rest of the world, because like I can't I can't experience that anymore. There is so much beauty in grief, and there is so much beauty in loving something that much that it hurts that deeply when it's gone, or the grief of watching the world with a soft heart and all the madness happening in the world. And, Debjit, you mentioned not experiencing grief personally, but the grief of the world right now is enough to impact any person who's never known a single person to die or never lost something they really love. Like, that's enough weight happening right now that we all need to have tools to try to move through that a little bit easier. As a conditioned response over so many generations, the healthy, open, free grieving has been conditioned out of us, right? It's been conditioned into this weird, quiet church, quiet church funeral, and it's just been so sterilized and quieted and stuffed in, right? You mentioned like what we can do. I think this we're now learning like the incredibly powerful result of collective healing, right? Of getting back in those circles to grieve, of somebody saying, um, dang, I really miss somebody. Like a group of friends getting around, they've lost a friend, and the person who finally speaks up and says, oh man, I'm really missing this person. One of my most beautiful moments in my grief journey was about a month after my dad had died, and I was at one of my best friend's son's birthday parties, and it was mass chaos. It was kids and dogs and just everything everywhere. And I was just sitting there numb. I couldn't really feel anything. I couldn't hear anything. And my goddaughter sat down next to me. I think she was probably 7 at the time, and she said, "Man, you really miss your dad, huh?" And I was like, like the beauty that kids can teach us, they don't care. They're gonna grieve where they need to grieve. A couple people have mentioned the act of like making somebody's favorite food, making sure their plate is still set at the table, putting on their favorite music. Music has been one of the biggest parts in my grief journey, and it has showed me time and time and again the universe. There have been undeniable synchronicities with music time and time again. And like, if the collective can all become open to that and they can send those waves out, whether we know it or not, it's healing stuff forwards, backwards, and everything in between. really brings like the reminder of the complexity of grief, right? And one of the things that I practice and teach most is how grief does skip hand in hand with joy, with jealousy, with all of these things that can bubble up, right? Um, I feel like many of the people I've known in a grief journey have laughed until they cried for real, or they've cried until they laughed for real, right? Because all of these emotions and energy, they see that crack in the light and they're like, "Oh, me too." And they see no difference in each other. Like all of these things are dancing inside us in these beautiful ways. And our human conditioned mind is the one making it sad, making it bad, making it so heavy we can't move forward. Yeah. So my goal is to just guide people in recognizing grief as an opportunity for expansion, even though it can be like a natural contractor, right? And natural, we experience a loss that massive or feelings that massive, our body literally curls up and it tries to put our brain before our heart, and our somatically our body is saying, please, no more, no more. But there's such a huge opportunity um to kind of use that as an expansion and work. Like all of this can be done with breath work, sure. Right, or it can be done in different ways, and there are some plant medicines that offer such beautiful support, and there are crystals that offer such beautiful support, and there's music and frequency and instruments that can offer such beautiful support. But it all is based off of that sense of community, right? Off of that collective acknowledgement of grief and that collective um wanting to just let that out. All of us have the intention to kind of continue to spread these roots, right? And now we know each other. And so if I can meet somebody who I can feel that the energy of one of the other panelists match, I can say, ooh, I have a great resource that aligns with you. Or, oh, I met this person 10 years ago. I think you'd be a great match with. And so I think it feels like that's what all of us are trying to do, is just kind of strengthen that root system as we all try to support each other.